With us, the more long-term sufferers we see, many people can still suffer from fatigue, memory loss, damage to the heart, lungs and brain. It's a worryingly long list of ailments. Noreen Jameel got COVID-19 in 2020 and is still suffering after the virus attacked her heart. In response, she set up a podcast called TLC Sessions to do just that, provide TLC for those living with long COVID. And she joins us from London. Very good evening to you, Noreen. Tell us firstly what happened to you after you got COVID.
Good evening, Jane, and thank you for having me on. So I got, as you said, COVID in December of 2020, so quite late in the year. And then what happened was I had it very mildly. I just had 3 days of feeling chills. I didn't really break a fever. I thought I'd got away with it. I was, after a week, I was on my feet and able to function normally. And for 6 weeks after that, I felt really well. What happened to me then was about 6 weeks post-COVID, I developed this really strange symptom where I would get up and do my normal things like going up and down the stairs or just walking around, and my heart rate would just go through the roof. It was like 140, 150. I'd be out of breath. I'd be needing to sit down, exhausted, tired. And I obviously didn't put two and two together. I didn't think it was anything to do with COVID. I sailed through COVID and here I was, and I must be, a middle-aged woman who's got heart issues. So I went off. Really luckily, I was able to see a cardiologist. And within 5 minutes, he sat me down. He said, "I'm seeing hundreds of people like you. This is long COVID. Let's do some checks." And so I had all the relevant MRIs and CT scans, and they figured out that I had myocarditis on the top of my heart. But what's really interesting is that these symptoms can't really always be discovered by conventional tests. Like blood tests won't show that you've got anything really wrong with you, or an EKG won't really show that your heart's not functioning well. So it takes a lot of work to figure out what's going on. And so he put me on medication. But the problem is that, it's such a new disease, Jane, that they don't know what's causing it. The heart itself is strong and it works well, apart from the inflammation that was on top of the heart. But they can't account for the tachycardia where my heart rate races, or the arrhythmia where my heart kind of doesn't beat as it should.
And how long will it stay with you for? I mean, do you have any idea about that? And I should imagine it must have been petrifying.
Yeah, it is. I mean, if you're sitting at home, when you've got two kids at home and you're feeling your heart behave this way, and it's just like, is this it? Am I about to have a heart attack? And it took a lot of reassurance from the cardiologist to say, listen, Noreen, you're not going to drop dead. But the latest I heard, through this podcast, we talked to a lot of doctors and we talked to a lot of experts, and we're talking to people who are doing all the research, and they're saying it could be 3 or 4 years before people recover.
Wow.
And the government itself is saying, it's looking like 10 years down the road that people are still going to be suffering with long COVID.
Okay, tell us.
Frightening.
Noreen, tell us a little bit more about why you set up the podcast and some of the stories that you are hearing from people.
Sure. So we set up the podcast. My co-host, Emily Stevens, and I set up the podcast because we quickly figured out that both of us have very different symptoms, but knew each other through a mutual friend. And then we accidentally happened to see the same consultant. I developed a second symptom, which was facial flushing. Again, didn't think it was anything to do with COVID. Went off to see a doctor about 2 months after I had COVID. And he said, this again is another very common symptom. Your histamine levels in your body are just skyrocketing, the body's overreacting, and you're getting this allergic reaction. People don't know about this. The leading doctors in the country, in the UK, are still figuring things out. And I would bump into people, colleagues, friends, who had very similar symptoms and did not know what was going on, hadn't been able to see a GP, hadn't been able to get an appointment with a consultant, had no knowledge because there was nothing out there in the media. And, I had this knowledge and I had the ability through my work as a journalist to reach these people and get them to come and talk to us. And we set up this podcast, and we're reaching people, and they're telling us their stories, and it's something positive out of something very negative. And I hope that the podcast can help people, because we're able to give advice. A doctor that we had on, not this week, but last week, said, even if you have just a mild COVID experience, do not go out and go running as soon as you feel better. Do not go back to work as soon as you feel better. It's a viral illness. It's a new viral illness. Take care of yourself. The 5 kind of barriers to recovery are, sleep deprivation, stress and anxiety, gut health, poor gut health, and exercise. You've got to just rest and properly recover before you attempt to do anything, because then you could possibly get long COVID. And there are 3 million people. The latest report said 3 million people in the UK have long COVID.
Gosh, that's frightening, isn't it? I mean, you touched on it, that we're still getting to learn more about this pandemic as it sweeps across the world. I should imagine that people feel heartened to know that others are going through similar scenarios to them. Obviously, they don't want that to happen, but it must certainly help to be able to talk about it.
Exactly. I'm talking to young guys in the Philippines and in Asia, where the pandemic is kind of skyrocketing at the moment. And so the more that the virus is out there, the more chances you have of getting long COVID. And there are, young guys and women who are developing long COVID. And like in South Africa, it's really hard to find the right treatment because people don't know what's going on. In the UK, it's one of the leading places that are doing the research because of the national health system. They're able to collate all the information from the country. Even in the US, they're way behind the UK because their system is so fragmented and there's no overall system like in the UK. So this is a good place to model treatments. And so, I suggest to anyone listening or watching your show that look to what's happening in Europe and in UK with all this research, because it will help you.
And good advice there, that if you feel a bit strange afterwards, even if it's as long as that you must go and seek help. Noreen, I listened to it, obviously, your podcast. It's brilliant. TLC
Thank you.
Sessions. Thank you very much for speaking to us.